Welcome to the Sens Spotlight podcast brought to you by the Sick Podcast Network. And before we get started, bet the beauties with Betway and scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and download the app. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Also, Betway is an official sponsor of your Ottawa Senators. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Sens Spotlight podcast. That really helps us out here. And congrats to the lucky winner for getting the Dylan Cousins jersey giveaway. We'll have many more jersey giveaways and ticket giveaways as the season progresses. So don't worry if you missed out on this one today. And we will be back with Pierre McGuire talking about somehow the Senators found a way to win in Philadelphia. So I think it'll be an interesting discussion. So hit it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Sens Spotlight.
Here's Alfredson, burst of speed, gets a shot away, scored! Daniel Alfredson ends the game in overtime and sends the Ottawa Senators to the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in franchise history.
The sickest Ottawa Senators podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And we are joined by Pierre McGuire. I guess all you can say is they won.
Yes, they did. They found a way, Alex, to get the job done. Full salute to them. You could see that there was some trepidation in the game. The fact they had a 2-0 lead was huge. After probably the first 5 minutes of the second period, you're like, this game's going the wrong way in a hurry. And they just found a way. Now you got to give Linus Ullmark some credit. He made some saves when he had to. You got to give some of the shot blockers some credit. But the truth is that wasn't a Rembrandt. That's 1 in 82. Takes the extra point and move on. Just get ready for Utah now.
That's just a weird win. And I mean, they found a way to win in overtime. I think that's another big step, right? It felt like they just couldn't find a way in overtime, but that was a pretty pitiful last 40 minutes. You don't get a shot for 22, 23 minutes, a full period of play. And the one thing that I noticed is you really feel Ottawa's lack of speed against the Flyers, who are a really fast team. As the game progressed, they just couldn't get out of the neutral zone. They couldn't get out of their own zone. They were just getting hounded and repeatedly. And I was surprised Travis Green didn't really change up the lines until really at the end of the game. That's something he typically does when his team's kind of going uphill. And I guess let's start with the beginning of the game, because the first 15 minutes they played excellent hockey, and I'm thinking, wow, this is the old Ottawa Senators. They're back. What do you like from their start that maybe didn't continue into the rest of the game?
I thought Timmy was really good, obviously scoring and pushing the pace of the game. I thought he was good. I thought the transition game was really good from defense to offense. They didn't give Philadelphia a lot of really great chances early on. I thought that was good. They were disciplined more times than not. Obviously, I think they got away with one in the neutral zone with a hit from behind. But that's okay. I mean, stuff happens. What are you going to do? Stuff happens, and you just move along. I think the biggest thing is in Boston for 35 minutes, the first 35, they weren't very good. Against Philadelphia, the last 40, they weren't very good. So they got to kind of find a way to either start on time and finish on time, or start on time and make sure that if you're not going to finish on time, you don't have these huge moments of 35 to 40 minutes where you're just not very good.
How do you explain that as like a former coach when your team just has these like massive walls in games?
It's really an interesting question. I don't know the true answer because every team is different. But here's what I would say is these guys definitely put a focus on, okay, we're not going to do what we did in Boston. And we had a bad start. So they had a good start. You got to give them credit. Their start was pretty solid. And then they let their foot off the gas. I think there's an intensity thing, and I don't want to belabor the point any more than we have to. The Tkachuk factor is huge. Not having Brady is a massive thing. And people say all the time, why is he so valuable? And I mean, not just Brady, but players that you talk about that lead by example. This is why. This is why you need those players. This is why those players are valuable. Brady's a really valuable player. And every team in the league that has a chance to win, they got a guy like that. Or some of them have two.
And the biggest trait about Brady is how he kind of brings people into the fight, right? And right now it seems like the Senators, they'll just kind of, I won't say give up, but they don't kind of get animated. They don't get into the game. They just kind of lose their energy levels for these huge swaths. And I think Brady, like, not just how good of a hockey player he is on the ice, but just that presence could really be a determining factor in maybe changing this in a couple of weeks, where we don't see this team having these lulls. And I do think this was maybe the first game where you really felt Kachuk's absence, where it just felt that everyone was kind of playing maybe outside of Tim Stutzle, maybe Jake Sander, everyone was kind of playing too high up the lineup. They're getting exposed. They're not kind of being able to match up against Philadelphia, especially as the game progressed. And you just felt that extra little offensive juice, that extra bit of kind of firepower, physicality was missing. And credit to them. They're finding ways to win. So, or they found a way to win today. So
they did.
Yeah.
They did. I mean, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it, because I want the team to win and do well. But the truth is if that's your recipe for success, you're not going to win a lot. If I were Rick Tocchet right now, I'd have Trevor Zegras in my office and say, "What did you do in there in the overtime? What are you thinking? Like, you quit on that play." That allowed Stutzle to get wide open. Batherson makes a great pass over to him, but like, that's not a recipe for winning. And, the Boston game wasn't a recipe for winning. And today, this afternoon, wasn't they got to figure out, there's a happy medium somewhere that they're going to have to figure out as a group.
The one thing with Ottawa in terms of generating play, and I'm curious what you think, for me, the two areas where I really feels kind of dragging them down is Chabot and Jensen are just not playing well right now. And Dylan Cousins isn't driving play at 5-on-5, right? I thought Timmy played a good game. I thought Pinto's line was actually pretty good, especially to begin the game. But when you have your second pair and your second line struggling to manifest any sort of offense, that's how you get hemmed in games like this. And that's where I don't know what the solution is. I think for defense, we've said it again, we don't want to beat it down, but I think it's time for Nick Jensen to sit out, or at least kind of play reduced minutes at the very least.
It's a back-to-back. Tomorrow's against a really fast team. If you think Philadelphia is fast, they're not fast Philadelphia's not fast compared to Utah. I'll tell you that right now. They're not. I'll tell you what gave Ottawa an amazing opportunity to win this game. The hit from behind against Juleson by Cousins. Ottawa's really lucky that it wasn't a major, and they're very lucky that Juleson retaliated and then the referee saw it that way. That was a really fortunate break for Ottawa in that game.
And speaking of that, if they were on the PK tonight, it felt like they had, and this part of the game a bit better and have that eye to see it, but it seemed like they were more of a box formation on the PK, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm curious. I already thought of my question to Travis Green. I'm like, so have you changed, or have you modulated how your PK looks right now? But it looked a bit different, and I liked it. I still find it a bit too passive at times, but they do seem more aggressive, especially at the point of attack at like the top of the blue line, and not just ceding possession like they did at the beginning of the year. And they killed the penalties. It wasn't a pretty effort like the rest of their game, but that's another area that I like to see, that it looks like they've moved more to a box formation.
Well said, Alex. We agree. And I thought that over the last couple of games, I've seen them be more aggressive, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. And that'll continue to evolve. I believe it will continue to evolve. The one thing I'm curious about, what your take is, I'm watching the Mishkov goal, and I know that the feed I was watching was a TSN feed. Usually I watch the American feed, but I watched the TSN feed, and they showed a picture of the coaches showing Shane Pinto something he should have been doing. And I'm like, no, that's not on Pinto. No. And I don't know why they were doing that. And that was on Sanderson. Like, in that situation, that's a matchup situation. And the way separation was created there, Mishkov pushed off on Sanderson because he was ready to adjust at the point of attack. And I'm curious, like, how are they going to sort that out in terms of the flight back and talking? Because usually that's what you do. You talk about the game. I'm just wondering how they're going to sort that out. Because if I'm Shane Pinto, I'm like, what did you want me to do there? Like, that's not my guy.
Yeah. And there was a guy backdoor that he was defending. Like, it wasn't as though he was just idling there with he was taking the man that if Michkov made a pass, it would have been a backdoor tap in, right?
Yeah.
So,
I
and
mean,
then Nick Jensen spun around and he's not even looking at the puck, right? I thought he was the person with like the least to blame on that play, but
so
that's
did you see the same thing I saw? Like,
Yeah, I
was
saw. I
I
was going to bring
surprised
that
by
up to
that. I
you.
was like watching that. And I'm going, what's that all about?
Do you think could it be maybe a play earlier on that sequence? Like that's the only thing I could think of.
I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I'm like, you know what? I just didn't see anything that Shane had done wrong. And I'm not trying to pick on Jake either, because I think everybody that watches this knows that I'm a huge Jake guy. But that was I didn't understand what the premise was of the coaching point there, and I wasn't down there listening, so I don't know. But I just found it really odd. I found it really odd.
I would say like keeping on Pinto, like that third line I thought was Ottawa's best line tonight, especially the Amadio Giroux line, especially to begin the game. They played really well defensively. What do you like? It's interesting. Green split up the Stutzle line. He put Greg and Perron on the first line. He put Cousins, Zetterlund, and Batherson on the second line, but he kept intact that third line. Like, why do you think he did that, and what do you think makes that line so effective?
I think he's just trying to create matchups because he knows he's on the road and he wants to make sure he's got one safety blanket type line that he can go to that he can really trust. And he's trying to explore what he can do to get the rest of the guys going. Zetterlund, again, really nothing, you know?
Yeah, he hit the post.
Okay. I'll see you that. I'll see
Yeah,
that.
I thought he played okay. That line, though.
But that's not what, like, it's okay is not good enough. And we're getting to like almost to the 20 game mark. And I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but I'm telling you, like, they laid their soul on the line for this player, and not just for the trade, but also financially. And they need some results. I mean, I hate to do it because I don't like beating any kid up, but he's got to start doing stuff.
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking about earlier in this game was just like when Brady Tkachuk comes back, and I could see him being on that number one line where they did create a lot of chances in the 2.5 games, but more so that it slots everyone right into the right positions when Tkachuk comes back. But if he doesn't start scoring, he has 1 goal in 15 games.
Mm-hmm.
He's 3
I
points.
like what you said, though, Alex. I think you're on to something. Slotting matters. It matters around the league. You know, getting Scotty Lawton back in Toronto slots everybody up a lot better. Lawton plays in the 4-hole. Raw plays in the 3-hole. You know, you look at Tavares plays in the 2-hole. Matthews plays in the 1-hole. It allows you to move Nylander up to create a super line with Nyes, Matthews, and Nylander because you have Scotty Lawton that stabilizes the roster. Then you got the flexibility to move Max Domi around. So you're spot on when you talk about, the slotting. And I do think when Brady comes back, the slotting will be better for this team, which I think is important because right now, they're life and death to get points. They are really life and death. Every game is a Super Bowl for them, and that's a hard way to play. There's no wiggle room. There's no wiggle room.
Isn't that a bit of an indictment on the team a little bit? Like, obviously, Brady Tkachuk's a great player and probably the most important player on this team, but the fact that they've looked so lifeless. Someone will also say, I think there's 3-3 without Tkachuk, so their record looks good, but I will still say this. Since that Boston game 2 weeks ago, they have not played a good game in about 2 weeks.
I thought that after the Islander game, I thought that, and obviously people saw Anders Lee, do a number on Jordan Spence. I thought after that game, they'd start to percolate a little bit, but it hasn't really gone that way, and so this team definitely has the ability to be good. It definitely does. I just think they need Brady back, and there's not a lot of room for error. There just isn't. They're just not deep enough, especially on the right side of their defense. They're not deep enough. Imagine. So you saw that what happened. Zub goes to make a play in the third period, and the puck goes off his stick, ramps up, and hits him in the side of the face on the left side. Imagine if you lose Zub. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a lot of wiggle room for this group right now because they just don't have enough bodies.
And even on the second goal, right? It's Clevin and Sanderson playing together because Zub's out for 3 minutes. They get scored on, right? What did you think of Spence's game? Because obviously it's been a while since he last played. It's been a huge topic
I
of
thought he was safe. I thought he was reliable. He played almost 18 minutes, I think, in the game, a little less than 18. Thought he was good. I thought he was solid. Thought he was reliable. Nothing poor, nothing great, just solid.
yeah, yeah. That's how I felt about it. But it's, let's say he doesn't get tomorrow. I hope he does, but let's say he doesn't. I feel like, nothing about tonight's game and the Senators playing poorly was because of Jordan Spence, right?
Right.
Like he wasn't.
I'm just saying this, and I'm not picking on Nick Jensen at all. Nick Jensen should take tomorrow night off
Yep.
against Utah. He should get the game off. Shouldn't even be a question. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I still am gonna beat to the drum that it needs to be Spence with Sanderson, Zub, Shabbat, and then Manpalo, Clevin. I think that makes the most amount of sense. We'll see if that happens, but it's just a weird place where this team's at, where they are finding ways to win or get points, but it's really ugly. And I guess from your vantage point as a former coach, like how much do you take that as a point of pride as a team versus also wanting to play well as a team?
Well, I think you have to have some pride coming out. You go on the road, anytime you get points, it's great. And you get an extra point this afternoon, I think it's even better. So no, it shouldn't be a negative atmosphere around the group at all. You went into Boston, even though you lost in the overtime, you still get a point. So they're not losing huge traction in the standings, but you want to play better. You want to establish how you're going to play and how you're going to be consistently good for 10 to 12 games in a row. How are you going to go on a run where you're 8-3-1? How are you going to go on a roll where you're 9-2-2? How are you going to do that? Because those are the teams, when they do that, they create separation. Then they get a chance to have a little break where they understand, okay, we didn't have our A game tonight. We lost. It's okay. We're good. We created enough separation in the standings. That's part of why you want to play well, in big 10. Most teams, not all teams, they do 10-game segments. And, obviously there's 8, 10-game segments, and then you got a 2-game segment that hopefully you don't have to worry about because you're already locked and loaded for the playoffs. And you judge by what you're doing in 10-game segments. And I think kind of Ottawa has to look at, we've been okay, but we haven't been great. We've been okay, but not great.
They haven't been giving up that many goals of late. And last year they had these stretches of games where it would just be really ugly hockey, but they'd be pretty good fundamentally defensively. And I just don't know how, like, obviously you get the points, they're on the charter right now. They're like, how did we steal that win in Philadelphia? Who cares? Like, let's get back home. Let's try to beat the Mammoth. But at what point is it like, hey, we want to play the right way and not just to defend at a high level and kind of let teams kind of circle around us and outplay us, even if we find ways to get points? Like, that doesn't seem like the way you want to be building into hopefully becoming a playoff team. And I don't know what that mix is if you're Travis Green.
No, I love what you're saying because it's true. And so you want to play with more offensive pizzazz, more attack-oriented mindset. You want pucks in deep. You don't want turnovers. You want to create that cycle game that you saw correctly what you just said. Philadelphia dominated on the cycle tonight. They were playing a low cycle. They were playing a high cycle. They dominated the afternoon cycle sequence because Ottawa was just passive resistant in their own zone. Can't do that. Great defense leads to better offense. The quicker you close a gap, the faster you force a turnover, the quicker you can counter, and then you can spend more time in the opposition zone. I think that's the mindset, that Travis wants his team to play with, and they have to get to that. Again, your point is really valid. It's really important, Alex. The slotting part of this matters, and you got guys slotted out of position right now because of the Brady injury. It's a bit of a problem.
Switching gears a little bit, how much confidence do you take from a win like tonight if you're Linus Ullmark? Like, obviously he played pretty well. He only had 22 shots, which it didn't feel that way, right? Possession wise, when you don't have a shot for 20 minutes and kind of just wave from Philly. But do you think do you feel like there's maybe a bit of a bright spot for Ullmark after this game? Did you feel he played pretty well, all things considered?
Much better than what we saw in Boston. Much better. And, I'm sure he didn't have a bad press conference after. which is important too. Again, I don't it's a team effort thing. To me, the biggest concern with this group here is how they're going to figure out how to play more consistent offense. They have to figure that out without break. They have to, whether it's Claude stepping up, whether it's Ridley stepping up, it's somebody. Jake Sanderson, I know people are going to punch him in the pants from time to time because he's doing way too much. Jake, if they didn't have Jake Sanderson, I don't know where this team would be right now. I don't think they'd be anywhere near where they are in the standings. Jake's been phenomenal for them. He's been really good.
He's been amazing. I do feel like the team's kind of waned a little bit, and his play just has been almost 90% there, but not 100% there as he was earlier in the season, especially offensively.
You get worn out. That's why it's really important that you get some support. I'm just telling you, it's really important.
What are you seeing on the PP on the power play? Sorry, just I think they're 0-14, or I have to double check, but in that vicinity.
Yeah, they're not really successful. I think part of it is entries, part of it is faceoffs. Initial faceoff matters a lot. Part of it is puck movement, lack of confidence. There's a lot. I mean, a big part of power play. I was looking at it. So I made these notes earlier. It's pretty interesting. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, going into this afternoon's game in New Jersey, Pittsburgh had the number one power play in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh Penguins. Here are the three worst teams: Carolina, New York, Toronto. Those are the three worst power plays in the league. Think about that for 1 second. Yeah. Carolina in the East, going into this afternoon's games, had the best goal differential in the league. The New York Rangers, they have one of the highest priced teams in the National Hockey League with all kinds of offensive firepower up front. Toronto Maple Leafs, they don't have Mitchell Marner, so their power play is not as good. Those are the bottom three teams in the league in the power play. Pittsburgh's number one. So how do you explain it? I'll tell you how you explain it. It's confidence. It's about guys really feel good about themselves, making plays with the puck. It's funny that you would ask me that question, and I didn't know it when I made these notes from this morning that this would be the question. But it matters. That's a big part of it. It's a huge part of it, confidence.
Yeah. And it's funny because at the beginning of the season, everything went in, and then it kind of, you could see how they were building off it. And then, you go cold for a couple, and then you feel a bit more snake bitten, and then everything doesn't feel like it's going your way. And the one thing, and this is maybe bigger picture, doesn't that say a lot about just the PP, the power play and who's at the bottom? Say a lot about how much talent there is in this league, that teams like Carolina, Toronto, and the Rangers are at the bottom and still playing pretty well, and have you'd think those teams would be in the top 5 or top 10, not at in the bottom.
Absolutely agree, and I apologize for my phone ringing. No, it's not a power play coach trying to yell at us. No, that's definitely true. It says a lot. But the one thing that has improved, and that I think that's part of why Ottawa is a little frustrated, and they're getting better at it, the penalty kill. The teams in the league, Buffalo is the number one team in the league in the penalty kill. Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo Sabres. If the playoffs started today, they wouldn't be in. But they're the number one team in the league in the penalty kill. So you can coach penalty kill. You can try to coach power play. If you don't have the right assets for the way you're coaching your power play, it doesn't matter. I'll give you an example. I tried to bring the Pittsburgh Penguin power play from 91 and 92, which was, almost 32%. Crazy numbers. I tried to bring that to Hartford. And I knew after the first day of practice, there was no way I could implement the same organizational strategy. I couldn't. It just wouldn't work. We didn't have Mario. We didn't have Paul Coffey. We didn't have Larry Murphy. We didn't have any of those guys. We didn't have Joey Mullen. We didn't have those guys. They were all in the Hall of Fame. I didn't have any of those guys. But I had good players. It's just that they weren't as good as those guys. And so you got to really tailor make your power play scheme for what you have. Penalty kill is a little easier to coach. Guys that are fearless are good penalty killers.
Yeah,
they are. It makes a difference.
Yeah, I also really like that Stutzle's on the PK. Just he's so fast, and you can just see how he pressures guys and kind of disrupts plays. And I love how the high end guys in the NHL are playing on the PK. I really like that. Obviously, it taxes them a little bit more, but Tim Stutz is 23, and I don't think he's complaining that he's on the PK. So I'm not too worried about it.
Because it's so true, Alex. And here's the biggest thing: he needs to play and get in rhythm all the time. He's a superstar player. He's one of Ottawa's superstar players. He needs to play. Thoroughbreds want to run. They don't want to walk.
Oh, yeah.
They want to run.
I mean, I wouldn't say I know Timmy, but being around him a lot, yeah, he let's just say I once talked to a player on the team last year. He's not on the team anymore. And I said, like, who's like the most confident guy? Like, who's like one of the most confident guys on the team? And he's like, Timmy. And I was like, okay. I was like, it was a cool.
I'm really comfortable telling you this. I'd get to work really early when I worked in Ottawa, and most of the coaching staff, especially Jack Capuano, he was there really early. But everybody was there. Davis was there early. DJ was there early. Smitty was there. Like, everybody was there. But the player that was there when I was working out early was Timmy.
Mm-hmm.
Timmy would come in early. He'd do his chores, go on the ice, and then he'd come back and do it again. So this isn't like a newfangled thing. Timmy's been doing that for a while.
And he's always the first one, or one of the first three on the ice. The other thing, and I'm curious from your vantage point, like, since he's had the new tape job, he's been really good. I'm not kidding. He has 6 goals in his last 6 games.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I was worried about him to begin the year was, is he too perimeter oriented? Remember, we talked about that. Could he basically score enough goals to match how many chances he creates? He's right now on pace. He has 8 goals in 15 games.
Well, the first goal he scored today, that was a ripper. And the second goal was, he just blew right past Trevor Zegras, not even close. And it was a great feed by Batherson. But some guys would shank that shot. Timmy's not shanking that one. Timmy's putting that one home. I'm so proud of him. I'm a huge fan of the player. I really like the person a lot. I think the team's in good hands once Brady comes back and Timmy's there. I'm not going to pretend like I'm concerned about Dylan Cousins. I am. I'm concerned because I know the team has made a huge investment in him. And I don't know at this point if I'm seeing that investment is justified. At this point, it's early, but I'm wondering about it.
I still, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, I still think this team's best way of slotting guys is to have Dylan Cousins on the wing on the top line with Tkachuk and Stutzle. You have Pinto as your number 2 with Batherson, Perron, Zetterlund, whoever, and then you have Greg, Giroux, Amadio. Like, that to me, just if you put it like that makes more sense. I can see where the offense is.
Thinking what you're saying, it does. It makes sense. Here's the one question mark player, and I like him a lot. Is where's Lars in this? Lars Eller. Where's Lars?
He's on the 4th line. That 4th line has not been good.
No, they need Lars to be better, and that's why I asked, where's Lars? Because you're around the team all the time. I can tell you one thing: he's a pro. Lars is a pro's pro. And the reason why he was drafted, people forget this. Lars was drafted in the 1st round by St. Louis. Jarmo Kekalainen's the guy that drafted him. And if you go look at his numbers, Lars's numbers, he's a Danish kid playing in Sweden. Lars's numbers weren't great ever. But the reason why Jarmo really wanted him was character personified and work habits that were exceptional. He's never lost any of that. But his numbers were never as good as his draft position, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what it was that allowed him to survive and win the Stanley Cup in 2018 and walk. Like, he knows, he understands. And I'm just wondering, like, when is that going to kick in? When's the identity of that line going to happen? Because that's an important part of it for this team in Ottawa, because they have to have 4 lines. They are a team that needs 4 lines.
Yeah. The one thing I would say, and I don't know, I feel like I watch him play. He's still fast enough to get around up and down the ice. He's still smart. There's a couple moments where you feel like he maybe forces a play because he doesn't feel he has confidence in his teammates, shall we say. But I just don't like who he's playing with. I don't think him and Zetterlund made any sense. Nick Cousins, good for him, but that's like I don't love him on the 4th line.
Who would be the best wingers in your mind for him?
I'd love a Michael Amadio with him. I think that's
a plotting thing. That's perfect what you said. Like, that's a good. So we agree on that one. And then who's on the other side?
Lixell, I get, good on him, but I don't know. Nick Cousins, I guess. I mean, Nick Cousins played really well with Stutzle and Batherson, to his credit. But I don't know if, I was just thinking about this off the top of my head. At the deadline, you probably add a defenseman. You probably want to add a top 6 forward. I think sneakily you want to add another fourth liner.
So I probably won't get a lot of browning points with the management in Ottawa when I say this. Zach Ostapchuk would have been a really good fit with Lars Eller and Michael Amadio.
Yeah, I don't think he's
like, this is just for Steven. Don't get mad at me. It's just an opinion, but I do think that would have been. I just would have liked to have seen that occur.
I also think if you keep Ostapchuk, although I don't think he's been playing in San Jose, I think he's been up and down.
That's like, I get what they're doing there too. So it's just,
but my point,
organizations are trying to do.
But I agree is if you don't allocate a second round pick and the contract to Zetterlund, and you use that on a different player who's more effective, and you keep Ostapchuk or you trade him for a better player, then it makes more sense, right?
Yeah, that's all.
And
so
I completely agree. I think is Zach Ostapchuk a world beater? No, but he could have been a very effective fourth line player, and Zetterlund was playing on the fourth line until a couple of games ago, and is not built to be a fourth line player. So I think what you're saying is pretty spot on. But yeah, shout out to reverse course a little bit. Shout out to Tim Stutzle, 6 goals, 6 games, on pace for 40. I just like that he's scoring. Like, that was the one thing that worried me about him this year, was just, is he going to be more of a 30 goal guy, or is he going to be closer to a 25 goal guy? And he's showing that. I
loved his reaction today after he scored the winner. I thought it was awesome. I loved the reaction of his teammates. They knew they stole an extra point. They know. But Timmy had a really good game. And you know what? I will say this very comfortably. Timmy was playing guilty because of what happened in Boston in overtime the other night. Timmy was playing guilty. And I think Shane was playing guilty. And I think Jake was playing guilty today. Those guys knew that when their coach called a timeout and they didn't get the job done, they knew.
They knew. Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah. I knew. And also give Michael Amadio some plaudits. He has 4 goals in 5 games. Sneaky. He's like a sneaky, like 15, 18 goal guy, right? I think he had 17 and 16 in Vegas. He had 11 last year, but he had a cold stretch. But he's already at 5 goals, I think, this year. So credit to Michael Amadio.
There's a John Druce component. And if you don't know that name, go Google it if you're a younger person. John Druce played for the Washington Capitals, and he had one playoff run that was unbelievable. And I see Michael Amadio playing, and I'm thinking, from my era, there's a John Druce component to the way Michael plays.
Yeah, the one I think of that like fourth liner that just took hold was Devontae Smith-Pelly in 2018.
That was 2018. That was amazing.
I actually I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but I was part of a project, let's say, and I was doing a lot of, for whatever reason, one of the main focal points was Devontae Smith-Pelly. So I can name you a lot of fun facts about Devontae Smith-Pelly, but I think that's kind of why it was in my mind. But before I let you go, Pierre, just anything kind of last words about heading into tomorrow's game against the Utah Mammoth, and just how to recap a win that couldn't be uglier than last or today's game.
Yeah, take the extra point, move on, get ready for a really fast team that has star players. And you might not know that they're stars right now, but Dylan Gunther is going to be a star player. Caden Keller is going to be a star player. Nick Schmaltz has never played better in the league. You watch Utah play. I've been watching Mikhail Sergachev for a long time. I've never seen him play better on the back end. JJ Peterka is a star in the waiting. You know, I know people know his name, but you'll see what I mean. There's a team. Now, the good news for Ottawa is they're playing tonight. So Ottawa's got a chance, to jump them. And that's important too. But you'll see they have a lot of pace. They have a lot of skill. And Andre Tourigny, who's coming back to Ottawa, which I think is really cool, he's an excellent coach. He's an awesome person. He's an awesome person, but he's a really good coach.
Nick Schmaltz, I think, has always killed the Senators. I think one year he had a hat trick. Was it a 4-goal game? He at least had a hat trick when they were in Arizona. So that's the one guy that's gonna give me nightmares if I'm a Senators fan. So hopefully not. And looks like Levi Merulainen will probably start tomorrow night. So that'll be interesting to see how he plays. And he played pretty well in his last game. So hopefully that can translate into tomorrow. So Pierre, thanks so much for doing this, and we'll talk after Utah on Sunday. We'll talk on Monday, I guess.
Monday morning, I'll be at the Hockey Hall of Fame for the induction, so I'm looking forward to talking to you from there. Thanks so much, Alex. I have a blast doing this with you. Thanks.
I love this, and we need to push for you to go into the Hall. Anyways, that's another day. It's a story for another day. So
thanks, my man.
Thanks, Pierre.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Sens Spotlight on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.